On Global TV News Prime, federal government extends memoranda submission deadline to August 21. In business, federal government approved tax waiver for 4,000 electric vehicles to boost green mobility. And on the foreign scene, Zambia President Hakainde Hichilema seeks second term amid economic security. And in sports, Paris Saint-Germain began their European campaign with another trophy. Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to News Prime on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365, Star Times, channel 276 and Free TV. The House of Representatives Committee on South-South Development Commission has demanded urgent and concrete action over the prolonged gas seepage in Bile Community, Rivers State, and oil spill in Odidi Federal Community, Delta State. At an urgent stakeholders engagement in Abuja, Committee Chairman Julius Pondi said the Bile gas seepage had persisted for approximately 9 months, imposing serious economic hardship on the predominantly fishing community. National Assembly correspondent Aniete Patrick reports.
The House Committee on South-South Development Commission says the prolonged environmental crisis in Bile and Odidi must no longer be allowed to linger without definite solutions. The committee, led by its chairman, Julius Pondi, demanded comprehensive briefings from regulatory agencies, operators, and affected communities with a focus on establishing the cause, assessing the response so far, and agreeing on measurable, time-bound actions.
You are taking a solution and there's a fire. So go to solution 80% of Nigerian people whose community provides livelihood for Nigeria, people whose community provide resources that we have to use in Abuja to all die because we are looking for solution or cause of the problem. So if you look at the people of Bile, not part of all the agenda that you mentioned, that okay, now that Bile is these things are like this. A temporary place to move them to.
A director of the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency, NOSDRA, Dr. Yusuf Rigasa, confirmed multiple gases in Bile, including hydrogen sulfide, meats, volatile organic compounds, and carbon dioxide. The agency said its assessments across 19 stations recorded gas concentrations above applicable regulatory threshold, while laboratory analysis also showed elevated total petroleum hydrocarbons in groundwater, surface water, and sediments. NOSDRA said it had not identified any oil and gas operator as the source of the seepage, while the NUPRC is conducting further investigations to determine whether there is a link to an underground hydrocarbon reservoir.
At Bile is multi-point subsurface gas bubbling, which we have confirmed at the government primary secondary school playground. And of course, the school has been abandoned. And at the site, there are monopumps and wells. We also confirmed this bubbling at waterways and certain mangrove platforms.
But the Bile Kingdom Chiefs Council, through the Secretary General, Chief Luckyman Ebila Opu Obolo, third of Ancient Bile Kingdom, said residents were facing worsening conditions, including contaminated water sources, disrupted fishing activities, and concerns over children's health. Community representatives said pupils have been moved from a primary school because of the emissions, while residents are demanding potable water, medical support, and a permanent solution to the crisis.
We got wind of it and immediately notified the regulatory agencies that this is what is happening. Indeed, and the River State government. The NOSDRA came in immediately. Renaissance responded. They came in to see, to carry out an assessment. After the assessment, there were recommendations.
On the Odidi oil spill, the committee said it will investigate the cause, containment measures, extent of environmental damage, and status of remediation. The committee chairman, Pondi, insisted that the proceedings must produce more than expressions of concerns, demanding clear resolutions, defined responsibilities, and measurable timelines for intervention and remediation. The committee said its ultimate objective was to ensure environmental justice, sustainable development, and improved living conditions for communities across the South-South region. From the National Assembly, Anietie Patrick, Global TV News.
The Presidential Working Group on the National Policing Bill has extended the deadline for the submission of memoranda and position papers on the proposed legislation August 21, 2026. The working group said the extension was to give Nigerians and other stakeholders more time to make sustainable and technically sound contribution to the proposed framework for the country's policing architecture. Chief of Staff to the President and Chairman of the Working Group, Femi Gbajamia-Mila, announced the extension in a statement saying submission would now close at 5 p.m. West African time on Friday, August 21. The Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, Brigadier General Buba Marwa, has declared that fight against illicit drugs remains restless and must be sustained as generational responsibility. Marwa made the declaration in Abuja at a ceremony where more than 200 NDLEA officers and key stakeholders were recognized for outstanding performance in the fight against drug trafficking and substance abuse. Kikelomo Okere has the details.
The NDLEA Chairman, Brigadier General Mohammed Buba Marwa, says the agency cannot afford to declare victory in the war against illicit drugs, as dismantled cartels could be replaced by new ones and closed trafficking routes could give rise to alternative corridors. He says the agency's responsibility is to remain vigilant and continue disrupting drug networks while protecting communities from devastating effects of substance abuse. The NDLEA chairman commended officers, informants, and other stakeholders whose efforts contributed to the successes, noting that many of the operations were carried out without public attention.
Dismantle. Intelligence tells us another will attempt to rise. For every corridor we shut down, traffickers will search for another route. Our task, therefore, is not to declare victory. It is to remain relentless. To the officers of the NDLEA, let today's honorees be your standard, not your ceiling.
The NDLEA chairman stressed that enforcement alone cannot win the war against drugs, adding that communities, civil society organizations, mental health professionals, and the media must remain active partners in prevention, public awareness, rehabilitation, and reintegration.
Trafficking and substance abuse was never going to be won by enforcement alone. It is won in the communities where NGOs quietly walk young people back from the edge of addiction. It is won in the newsrooms where journalists chose to tell the difficult stories, the stories of trafficking routes, of rehabilitation, of families rebuilding, even when those stories were not the easiest to tell. So wear this honor well. Let it be the fuel that will drive you further. This is not the finish line. Now let me speak to what makes this.
At the ceremony, more than 200 officers were honored for exceptional performance, while commanders received special recognition for outstanding leadership and operational achievement. For the first time, the NDLEA also recognized 7 mental health organizations and 8 media platforms for their contribution against substance abuse and illicit drug trafficking. Kikelomo Okere, Global TV News.
The federal government has announced plans to establish 41 university innovation hubs across tertiary institutions in a bid to transform Nigeria from a resource-based economy into a knowledge-driven economy. The Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, disclosed these in a statement following a meeting with the United Nations Development Programme and 7 universities vice-chancellors regarding the UNDP Innovation Hub. Alausa explained that Uniports were designed to move research and innovation beyond academic publications and translate discoveries into commercial enterprise, job creation, and measurable economic impacts. The Court of Appeal has set aside the judgment of the Federal High Court recognizing expelled Shehu Gaban as the national chairman of the Social Democratic Party, SDP. The 3-member panel delivered a unanimous judgment holding that the Federal High Court lacked jurisdiction to make orders affecting the rights and interests of persons who were not properly before it. Ubong Usoro reports.
The Court of Appeal has nullified the Federal High Court's pronouncement in the leadership dispute within the Social Democratic Party, SDP. The 3-member panel, comprising Justices Fadoua Umaru, MS Hassan, and L.A. Ganiyu, delivered the unanimous judgment, with the Justice Hassan leading the panel. The court noted that an earlier Court of Appeal decision relied upon by the Federal High Court had subsequently been set aside by the Supreme Court. Reacting to the judgment, SDP National Chairman Sadiq Abubakar welcomed the decision and thanked the court for what he described as a victory for justice.
And also, I want to use this opportunity to most profoundly thank our presidential candidate that led the legal team for the wonderful job they have done to the party, for their patriotism, not just to the party.
The SDP presidential candidate, Prince Adewale Adebayo, also welcomed the judgment, describing it as an important development for the party ahead of the 2027 general elections.
The key issue is that in future, INEC should be very careful with SDP. Where we nominate candidates, take them. Where we make our decisions, respect them.
The judgment is the latest development in the prolonged leadership dispute within the Social Democratic Party as the party prepares for the 2027 general elections. Ubong Usoro, Global TV News.
The Osun State government has dragged the Inspector General of Police and the Commissioner of Police in the state before the High Court, seeking an order compelling them to investigate Senator Francis Fadosi over alleged inciting remarks ahead of Saturday's governorship election. The Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice Osun State, Oluwole Jimmy-Bada, filed the suit marked HQSM 15726 at the High Court of Justice, Osogbo Judicial Division. The application followed the circulation of the video in which the senator was allegedly heard making comments about Accord Party members. The President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, Chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum, Hope Uzodinma, and other APC stakeholders have arrived in Osogbo, Osun State for the All Progressive Congress mega rally. The high-profile political gathering is part of the APC's final mobilization effort for its governorship candidate, Bola Oyemaji, ahead of Saturday's governorship election. The arrival of the party's senior leaders and governors is expected to further energize the APC campaign as the party intensifies its grassroots mobilization across the state. Nigeria's Ombudsman Public Complaints Commission has commenced a comprehensive training on artificial intelligence, AI, and electronic complaint management for its officers across the North Central Geopolitical Zone. The training is part of efforts to accelerate complaint resolution and improve service delivery. The capacity building program is being conducted in phases with participation from officers across the Commission's state offices in the zone. The training is aimed at equipping the Commission's personnel with modern skills to enhance complaint management, improve operational efficiency, and strengthen service delivery in line with global best practice. A heavy downpour that swept across parts of the Federal Capital Territory on Thursday has left residents counting losses as recurring flooding once again raises concern over drainage infrastructure and urban planning. Global Television's correspondent was there with this report.
Thursday morning's heavy rain caused widespread destruction across parts of Abuja, damaging properties and exposing the impact of seasonal flooding on residents. In Asokoro, Barrister Nasir Saidu says floodwaters brought down his perimeter fence, leaving his property damaged after the intense downpour.
As a direct result of the construction activities going on at this site that you have seen now, there was a heavy water flowing through the channel they created, which passed through our wall. And as a result of the heavy water that is flowing, arisen from the construction activities, it led to the collapse of our house wall, and the collapse, the wall fall on my two cars. It caused a serious damage to the two vehicles, and we have taken step number one. Even before now, we met them, we alerted them of the imminent risks associated with any activities from this area. Because of the hilly nature of the site, we told them in the past there were several attempts made by land grabbers and sometimes authorities to allocate this area. But because of the hilly nature, whenever there is any construction activities, it always leads to building collapse, high accumulation of water to the extent that it cause damage to properties and damage to belong houses along Haile Selassie. This is not the first time. I think last 2 weeks we came here, we met the site engineer, we intimated him about this site. If you see from here up to the end of the road, there is no building. The authority is aware of the nature of the area. It is reserved initially as park and recreation.
The impact extended to other communities across the FCT, where residents expressed disappointment over the repeated flooding, blaming poor drainage system and compromise by authorities.
Where they're supposed to have a drainage, they build and cover the area. By the time the flood comes, it will push down the fence.
While many are calling on governments to improve drainage infrastructure, some residents say communities must also play their part.
Example now, like Asokoro here now, it happened. It's something whereby they will first come out as a community, people that live around, so then you take the cry to government.
And if you go to places like Kobe, all those places around inside the Asokoro village, you see some places like that the flood is entering people's rooms.
As the rains continue, residents say preventing future disaster will require both government action and community responsibility. Ramsey Enoch Agbo, Global TV News.
Kebbi State Governor Nasir Idris has approved the creation of a new district comprising 8 villages across in Dandi local government area of the state. The approvals were contained in a statement issued by the Commissioner for Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs, Alhaji Garba Umar Dustmari in Birnin Kebbi. The governor also approved the creation of a new village headship in Oge local government area as part of its effort to strengthen traditional administration and improve grassroots governance. The Director General of the Department of State Services, Oluwatosin Ajayi, has called for stronger collaboration among security agencies, government institutions and communities to tackle terrorism, banditry and other criminal activities in the Northwest. Ajayi made the call in Katsina at the 2nd Northwest Zone Conference of State Directors of Security, organized by the DSS with the theme, Unite Against Terror. The DSS boss, who was represented by the chairman, Northwest Forum of State Directors of Security and Kano State Director of Security, Hosseini Abubakar, said the conference provided an opportunity for security stakeholders to review the evolving security situation in the region, share operational experiences, and develop evidence and effective strategy to contain terrorism and banditry. You're watching the live broadcast of News Prime. News Prime continues after this weather forecast, plus business, foreign and sports stories on the other side of this break. Please stay with us.
Hello there, you're welcome once more. And so the surface pressure valleys across the country eased some from the high valleys of Wednesday. This allowed for these rainstorms to build, gradually propagate across the north and central states and exited parts of the northwest as of Thursday morning. This left mostly moderate to heavy rainfall across the country. The highest amount of rainfall were concentrated to the north. It's only over Uyo in the south where we had 56 millimeters of rainfall. 70 millimeters came out of Dutse in Jigawa State. It left streams and rivers bursting in the seams across the country. We still expect more rains come Friday as there are prospects of thunderstorm and rains across the north, central and the south, expected to stretch to the southwest, even though with reduced intensity. And so if you live in a low-lying area close to rivers and streams, you may want to take care and stay safe. Thank you for watching. See you again.
The Nigerian Content Development Monitoring Board has urged stakeholders in the oil and gas industry to enhance its new digital platform, describing it as a bold step towards improving efficiency, transparency, and innovation and global competitiveness in the sector. The Executive Secretary of the board, Felix Ogbe, made the call in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State while unveiling the portal. Ogbe, who was represented by the manager Emmanuel Yusuf, said the access and the success of the platform depends not only on its design, but also on its collective adoption and engagement by industry stakeholders. And on the foreign scene, Zimbabweans are voting in a presidential election that has put President Hakainde Hichilema's economic record and the country's future direction under scrutiny. Hichilema is seeking a second term, with voters as also electing members of parliament in contest being closely watched by opposition parties and international observers. Mukhtar Kasim reports.
Zambians turned out early to cast their ballot, with economic hardship, jobs, and the cost of living among key concerns for voters. President Hakainde Hichilema is seeking re-election after pointing to economic reforms and recovery efforts, while his opponent argued that many citizens are yet to feel the benefit. At polling stations in Lusaka, voters described the election as an opportunity to exercise their franchise and influence the country's future.
I feel so happy. I'm so grateful that I can exercise my democratic rights. Yeah, so happy.
I feel good. I'm happy about it. I've exercised my right, my democratic right as a Zambian citizen, and I feel great about it. I feel I've fulfilled a responsibility that I have to fulfill for my country.
Well, it's like a burden off my shoulders. It's a relief, and we are voting for the future of this country, the future for our children, and the future for prosperity. That's how I feel.
So I arrived around 03. I couldn't wait to come and vote. I feel so happy. I feel so excited because I've got the right to vote, and I've done my right.
With more than 8 million registered voters expected to participate, the election is seen as a test of Hichilema's record and Zambia's democratic stability. The presidential results are expected by August 17, with a runoff required if no candidate secures more than 50% of the votes. Mukhtar Kasim, Global TV News.
The United States is stepping up cooperation with countries across Latin America in a bid to tackle drug trafficking and organized crime. U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says Washington and its partner must take concrete and sometimes risky steps to dismantle powerful drug cartels operating across the region. Again, Mukhtar Kasim reports.
Speaking in Panama City at a meeting of the America's Counter-Cartel Coalition, Hickson said the United States wants stronger operational cooperation from countries participating in the regional initiative. His comments come after Colombia authorized joint military operations with the United States, expanding Washington's efforts to target drug trafficking networks.
Dismantle the cartels. We mean it. And I know the nations of this coalition feel the exact same way on behalf of their citizens.
Hickson added that the coalition must move beyond declarations and deliver concrete actions against organized crime, including agreements that would facilitate military cooperations and access. He said the United States and its partners had no time to waste as drug trafficking and cartel violence continues to threaten communities across the region.
Our citizens and our nations deserve and expect real, concrete actions. We believe there's no time to waste and no better time than right now.
The American Counter-Cartel Coalition brings together defense and security representatives from countries across North and South America and the Caribbean. Washington says the initiative is intended to strengthen joint operations, intelligence sharing, and other measures aimed at disrupting the activities of drug cartels and transnational criminal networks. Mukhtar Qasim, Global TV News.
And in sport, Paris Saint-Germain began their European campaign with another trophy, edging Aston Villa 2-1 in Salzburg to become only the third club to win the UEFA Super Cup in consecutive years. The Champions League holders had to withstand a spirited Villa, a challenge before deserters. A second-half strike settled the contest that repeatedly threatened the wing either way. PSG has also won last Super Cup, beating Tottenham Hotspur on penalties in, of course, Ukraine. The teenage equalizer injected another fresh belief into Emery's side with a rival in Salzburg as East League champions after a 3-0 victory over Freiburg in May. As Global TV News Prime comes to an end, let's take a look at our top stories. The Presidential Working Group on the National Policing Bill has extended the deadline for the submission of the memoranda and position paper on the proposed legislation in August 21, 2026. And we told you in business that the federal government has approved tax waivers for almost 400 electric vehicles imported into the country. And of course, we also told you from the foreign scene that Zimbabwe is voting presidential election that has the President Hakainde Hichilema economic record and the country's future direction under scrutiny. And in sport, Paris Saint-Germain began their European campaign with another trophy, edging Aston Villa 2-1 in Salzburg to become only the club to win the UEFA Super Cup in consecutive years. And that's it on News Prime. Here is a quick reminder that Global TV is on DSTV channel 365, Star Times channel 276, and Free TV. Follow us on all our social media platforms as been shown on your screen. I am Ramsey Enoch Abo. Thank you for watching.